The shocking incident. The Galactic Council was a powerful group, one that ruled over countless planets in the universe. They had no equal, and for centuries, they believed that nothing could stand in their way. They had armies, fleets, and resources beyond anyone's imagination. The Council was feared by all, and their decisions shaped the lives of billions across the galaxy. Nothing, or so they thought, could challenge their authority. But all that changed on one fateful day. A young human girl, just 18 years old, was sent by the leaders of Earth to the Galactic Council as part of a peace mission. Her name was Maya, and she was a symbol of hope for humanity, a voice for peace and unity. Maya's task was simple: to negotiate a treaty between Earth and the other races in the galaxy. She was not a warrior, nor a soldier. She was a diplomat, trained in the art of persuasion and understanding. But she never made it to the Council's meeting room. The Galactic Council had always been cautious of humans, seeing them as a primitive species unworthy of their attention. But they agreed to the meeting, mostly out of curiosity. What could a young girl from a planet like Earth possibly offer them? They expected her to arrive in awe, to beg for mercy, and to sign whatever treaties the Council presented. But instead, they were about to make the biggest mistake of their lives. When Maya arrived, she was not afraid. She stood tall, her eyes filled with determination. She was there to represent Earth, to speak for her people. She had been briefed on the importance of this mission, but nothing could have prepared her for what was about to happen. The moment she entered the room, something was off. The Council's members sat high on their thrones, looking down at her like a curious specimen. They had no respect for her, no regard for her mission. Instead of a peaceful greeting, they treated her with disdain. They ignored her words, laughed at her requests, and made it clear that Earth's place in the galaxy was insignificant. Maya tried to remain calm, but the insults and arrogance of the Council were too much. She raised her voice, demanding respect for Earth and its people. She told them that Earth would not bow to their authority, that humans would no longer be treated as lesser beings. But the Council did not take kindly to her defiance. In one swift motion, one of the Council members, a being from a powerful race with abilities far beyond those of humans, attacked her. Without warning, they used their powers to strike her down. Maya collapsed to the ground, her body lifeless. The Council members stared in shock, but only for a moment. They had acted without thinking, blinded by their arrogance. They believed that no one, especially not a human, could challenge their power. The room fell silent. The Galactic Council had just killed an innocent human girl, and they didn't realize the gravity of what they had done. Back on Earth, Maya's death was felt like a thunderclap. Her family, her friends, her people, everyone mourned her loss. But as the news spread, something else began to happen. The people of Earth, who had always been peaceful and reserved, began to change. The news of Maya's death ignited a fire within them. They could no longer stay silent. They could no longer allow themselves to be pushed around by those who thought they were above everyone else. The leaders of Earth convened in secret, knowing that something had to be done. A warning had to be sent to the Galactic Council, a warning that would not be ignored. But what could they do? They were no match for the might of the Galactic Council. Or were they? In the depths of Earth's most secure locations, a group of scientists and engineers worked tirelessly, building weapons, gathering information, and creating technology unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The humans were readying themselves for the unimaginable. They would not let Maya's death be in vain. And so the message was sent, a transmission to the Galactic Council. Pray. It was simple. It was direct. But it carried with it a sense of power, a promise of retribution. The Galactic Council, in their arrogance, laughed it off. They thought it was a joke, a silly threat from a species they considered beneath them. They believed they could crush Earth and its people without effort. They couldn't have been more wrong. As the Council continued with their plans, they didn't notice the quiet preparations happening across Earth. The humans were not going to beg for mercy. They were going to make the Galactic Council pay for what they had done. But the Council would not understand the danger until it was too late. And so, a new chapter in the galaxy's history began, one that would shake the very foundations of the Galactic Council, a chapter written in the blood of a young girl and the fury of a people who would never again bow to anyone. The warning is ignored. After Maya's death, Earth was in mourning. But the grief soon transformed into something much darker. The loss of one young girl, an ambassador of peace, ignited a fire within the hearts of humans across the planet. Leaders, scientists, engineers, and common citizens alike began to stir with one thought: revenge. The Galactic Council had made a grave mistake, and Earth would make them pay. The entire planet now united with a single burning goal. While the Galactic Council sat on their thrones, completely unaware of the growing storm on Earth, the humans began preparing for a confrontation unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The Galactic Council, in their arrogance, dismissed the human warning. They saw the transmission, prey, as nothing more than a simple threat, one from a species they considered weak and insignificant. They laughed at it, passing it off as nothing more than a minor annoyance. They had the power to destroy any challenge to their rule, and Earth was no different. In the Council's grand chambers, their most powerful members gathered, discussing their next move. The death of Maya was quickly forgotten. The Council continued with their plans, confident that no retaliation from Earth could possibly harm them. To them, humans were just a tiny speck in the grand universe, nothing more than a nuisance. They had no idea how wrong they were. Meanwhile, on Earth, the situation was very different. Earth's top leaders met in secret, devising a plan to retaliate. They knew they were no match for the Council's might, but humanity had something the Council didn't expect: ingenuity. Scientists worked tirelessly, creating new technologies that could rival the power of the Council's weapons. They reverse-engineered alien tech, scavenged old war machines, and developed new weapons designed to destroy. Earth's greatest minds came together to create a force that would send a message to the Galactic Council. Humanity was not to be underestimated. While the Council thought nothing of the prey warning, humans were not idle. They had a plan, and it was already set in motion. Earth's best engineers built fleets of ships, each armed with newly designed weapons capable of overwhelming the Council's defense systems. Hidden deep in underground bunkers and abandoned military bases, humans gathered their resources. They trained soldiers prepared to fight with a ferocity they had never shown before. They were no longer the peaceful species that the Galactic Council had known. They were warriors now, driven by rage and the desire for justice. But despite all their preparations, Earth's leaders knew something. The Council had no idea what was coming, and that was their greatest advantage. The first step of the plan was to deliver another warning, a final chance for the Galactic Council to reconsider their actions. But this time, Earth's leaders made sure it would not be ignored. The transmission was sent again, this time with a different tone. The message was clear: pray, for your reckoning is coming. The Galactic Council received this second transmission, but instead of taking it seriously, they mocked it. They believed that the humans had no way of reaching them, no way of threatening their power. The Council's pride blinded them, and they dismissed the transmission as a desperate plea from a species too weak to fight back. On Earth, though, things were different. As the message was sent, preparations reached their final stages. Human fleets began to assemble in secret locations, ships ready to strike. The newly developed weapons hummed with power, waiting for the moment when they would be unleashed. The humans had been preparing for years, and they knew that they had only one shot at this. In the heart of Earth's command center, the leaders watched as the last of the fleets lifted off into the void of space. They knew the Galactic Council would never expect this. They would never see it coming. The Council, meanwhile, continued their daily activities, completely unaware of the danger that now loomed over them. They thought the humans were weak, just a small, insignificant race. They were wrong. Earth had become a force to be reckoned with, and soon, the Galactic Council would learn it the hard way. As the human fleets traveled toward the Galactic Council's most vulnerable stations, no one could predict the shockwave that would soon hit the galaxy. The time for warnings was over. Now, humanity was going to take action. But the Council still didn't understand the true danger they were facing. They believed themselves untouchable, so they continued their plans, unaware that the seeds of their downfall had already been sown. The hidden power of humanity. As the Galactic Council continued its arrogance-fueled ignorance, the true scope of humanity's hidden power began to emerge. The Council, convinced that Earth was nothing more than a primitive world of insignificant beings, continued with their affairs, dismissing every warning sent their way. But back on Earth, something extraordinary was happening. Humanity, usually seen as peaceful and fragile by the rest of the galaxy, had quietly been preparing for the unimaginable. In secret labs, deep within forgotten military bases, and even in old bunkers once abandoned by the world's leaders, Earth's scientists and engineers were working around the clock. The death of Maya had been the spark, and now a slow-burning fire of revenge was about to consume everything. Earth's scientists were not just tinkering with basic technology. They were revolutionizing it. While the Galactic Council relied on their vast fleets and high-tech weaponry, they had overlooked the one thing that could be their downfall: human ingenuity. Earth had no resources to match the power of the Council, but they did have the brilliance of their people. It wasn't a question of size or strength. It was a question of will and creativity. The humans' first step was to reverse engineer the technology they had been able to obtain from crashed ships, rogue space travelers, and their own desperate experiments. What they discovered was beyond anything the Council had ever imagined. The humans created weapons of mass destruction, advanced energy cannons capable of obliterating entire fleets in a single strike, shields stronger than anything the Council had ever seen, and stealth technology that allowed their ships to remain unseen by the Council's sensors. It wasn't just about fighting fire with fire. It was about catching the Council off guard, using tactics they had never encountered before. Even more terrifying, however, was the fact that humans had unlocked a secret to manipulate space itself. They had figured out how to create small-scale wormholes, tiny openings in space that allowed them to bypass the Galactic Council's fleets entirely, making their attacks impossible to predict or defend against. The Council's vast, all-powerful reach was useless against this new technology. It was as if humans had unlocked the very fabric of the universe to fight back. While these advancements were being quietly developed, Earth's leaders knew the full extent of the threat they now posed. The Council, in their arrogance, believed they had no equal in the galaxy. But what they failed to understand was that humanity was not just a species of survival. They were a species of innovation. They had taken the loss of one life, Maya's, and transformed it into a movement of global strength and resistance. The human military, once small and relatively untrained compared to the Council's elite forces, was now a machine of fury. Soldiers, trained not only in combat, but in the new technologies that Earth had developed, were ready for the coming war. They understood the stakes. This was no longer just about defending a planet. It was about sending a message to the entire galaxy that no one would dare trample over humanity again. Every soldier had a purpose, and each one knew that their mission was personal. Maya's death had become a symbol for all of humanity's fury. Her name was whispered across the planet, not with sadness, but with the determination to strike back. The grief had long since turned to anger, and that anger had created the perfect storm. Earth's forces were ready, and they would show the galaxy the true meaning of human strength. But despite all of humanity's preparations, the Galactic Council still had no clue what was coming. Their spies were looking in the wrong places. They still believed that Earth's people were too weak to mount any serious resistance. They thought the humans would fall in line like they had always done before. They could not have been more wrong. The first signs of the humans' preparations were subtle. A few missing ships, an unexpected energy signature, the slightest tremor in space. But none of these alarms were taken seriously. The Galactic Council believed their intelligence was flawless. They had already brushed aside the humans' warnings as hollow threats. Now, as Earth's forces silently gathered in hidden corners of the galaxy, the Council continued its carefree reign, completely unaware that their downfall was already set in motion. In the secret underground bases as Earth's military forces gathered, the mood was one of quiet anticipation. The final checks were being made, the last of the ships prepared. Earth had never been a warmonger, but now it was ready to make its stand. The Council would soon learn that humanity was not just a species to be crushed underfoot. It was a force that would rise from the ashes of tragedy, stronger than ever before. The humans, once thought to be weak, had harnessed their greatest strength, unity, and with it, they had built a power capable of shaking the stars themselves. The battle begins. The day had come. The Galactic Council was about to learn the hard way that they had underestimated humanity. From the depths of Earth's secret military bases, fleets of ships began their journey toward the heart of the galaxy. Hidden in their stealth, they passed through the darkest corners of space, unseen by the powerful sensors of the Galactic Council. The Council still believed they had time. Time to ignore the warnings. Time to mock the prayers sent by Earth. But as the human fleet grew closer, their time was running out. As Earth's ships entered Council space, the first waves of the attack began. The human fleet, equipped with newly developed stealth technology, slipped past the Council's outer defenses without detection. The Galactic Council's advanced monitoring systems were designed to scan for threats, but they could not perceive the danger that was coming. For them, it was just another quiet day in the galaxy, until it wasn't. Without warning, a series of blinding energy blasts struck the first Council space station. The station's shields flickered for a moment, then shattered. Explosions rocked the facility, sending debris flying into the emptiness of space. The Council's fleet, still unaware of the threat, scrambled to react. But it was too late. The humans had already hit them where it hurt most. The destruction was quick and precise. It wasn't just a show of strength. It was a message. Pray, the humans had said. Now, it seemed, the time for praying was over. Inside the Galactic Council's command centers, chaos erupted. Officers scrambled to understand what had just happened. Their superior technologies, their enormous fleets, were being torn apart by an enemy they had never considered a real threat. They were blindsided. Their ships, once thought to be invincible, were no match for the precision of the human weapons. Earth's ships, faster, stealthier, and more deadly than the Council had ever expected, struck swiftly and without mercy. But the humans had not only come for destruction, they had come for something more. As their ships tore through the Council's defenses, they broadcast a chilling message across the galaxy. This is what happens when you kill one of our own. This is the cost of underestimating us. In every corner of space, from the farthest reaches of the galaxy to the inner systems, the message spread. The Galactic Council's arrogance had triggered an unimaginable chain of events. And now, the galaxy was watching as humanity struck back. Back on Earth, the response was mixed. Some cheered in triumph, proud of their people's strength and unity. Others watched in fear, realizing that the war had only just begun. The Galactic Council would not take this attack lightly. There would be a price to pay, and Earth knew that. The Council would retaliate. But for now, humanity had struck a blow, and it had been felt across the stars. The humans knew they could not stop now. They had to keep pushing forward. The Galactic Council had underestimated them, but Earth was not a species that would simply accept defeat. They had tasted victory, and they wanted more. The battle was far from over. Earth's fleet, though powerful, was still only a fraction of what the Galactic Council could muster. But now, the Council's fleets were scattered, their power fractured, and their confidence shattered. Humanity had proven that they were not the weak species the Council had believed them to be. They had proven that they could rise from the ashes, stronger than ever before. As the battle raged on, The humans were relentless. They had no intention of stopping until the Council understood the true cost of their actions. Maya's death had been the catalyst, but this war was about much more than one life. It was about showing the galaxy that humanity would never bow to tyranny. They would fight, and they would win. The Council had crossed a line, and now the price was being paid. The war had begun, and there was no going back. The Galactic Council strikes back. The Galactic Council, now reeling from the unexpected attack, knew they had made a grave miscalculation. The human fleet, though relatively small in comparison to the vast power of the Council, had caused immense damage in a short period. This was not a skirmish, it was a declaration of war. A war the Council had never anticipated. In the halls of the Galactic Council, fear began to creep in. Their once unshakable confidence faltered. How had humans managed to breach their defenses? How had they done so much damage so quickly? The Council's leaders huddled together, their faces grim with realization. Earth had tapped into a power they didn't understand, and it was now coming for them. As the Council regrouped, they decided on their next move. Retaliation. But their response would not be immediate. The Galactic Council, composed of many different species, had always relied on their collective might. However, for the first time in centuries, they were divided. Some factions were calling for swift and overwhelming action to wipe Earth from existence, while others were more cautious, worried that further escalation could ignite an all-out war across the galaxy. The decision was difficult, but one thing was certain: the Council could not let this insult go unanswered. In the meantime, the human fleet, now bolstered by the initial success, pushed further into Council space. The humans weren't just fighting to defend their home, they were fighting for their very survival. As their ships moved deeper into enemy territory, they encountered more resistance. The Galactic Council's fleets, now on high alert, moved to intercept, launching counterattacks against the human ships. A deadly cat-and-mouse game began across the stars. The humans, however, had learned from their first victories. They knew their fleet was still outnumbered and outgunned by the Council's massive forces, so they employed their secret weapon, the small, nearly undetectable wormholes that allowed their ships to appear and disappear in the blink of an eye. Every time the Council thought they had found the human fleet, the humans were already gone, teleporting to new locations, striking from unexpected angles. The Council's advanced sensors couldn't keep up. But the war wasn't just being fought in space. On Earth, the mood was tense. Earth's leaders, fully aware of the scale of what was happening, rallied the people. The war had already cost them much, many lives, countless resources, but it had also united them. It wasn't just the military anymore. It was every man, woman, and child willing to defend their world. Civilian industries worked around the clock to supply the war effort, creating more weapons, ships, and technology. Earth was no longer just a home. It had become a forge for war, and humanity was determined to see it through. At the same time, humans were making new allies. In the depths of space, there were alien species that had long suffered under the rule of the Galactic Council. They watched with growing hope as the humans made their stand. Some had already begun to secretly aid Earth, sharing vital intelligence or providing resources that would give humanity the edge it needed. Others had joined the fight openly, helping to turn the tide against the Council's might. The war had become larger than anyone had expected, a battle for freedom that stretched across the galaxy. Every day brought new conflicts, new skirmishes, and new victories. The Galactic Council, now realizing they were fighting more than just a small rebellion, began to escalate their efforts. Yet despite the growing intensity of the conflict, one thing was clear: humanity was not backing down. Each victory against the Council strengthened their resolve. The Council's fleets may have been vast, but Earth had one advantage they had never counted on: the tipping point. The war had escalated to an unimaginable scale. The Galactic Council, once confident in their superiority, now found themselves on the defensive. The humans, once seen as weak and insignificant, had become a formidable force that could no longer be ignored. The balance of power had shifted, and the tipping point had finally arrived. Humanity's relentless push into Council space had begun to fracture the once unified factions of the Galactic Council. The war was not just being fought in space anymore, it was being fought within the Council itself. The constant bombardment, the destruction of their ships and stations, had ignited internal strife. Factions that had once been loyal to the Council's cause were now questioning their leadership. Some sought peace, while others demanded total annihilation of the humans. Back on Earth, the war had unified the people in a way no one could have predicted. The tragedy of Maya's death had become a rallying cry for every human, regardless of nation, creed, or belief. As the conflict spread across the galaxy, Earth's resolve grew stronger. The war effort had tapped into the very heart of humanity's spirit: survival, unity, and defiance. The Earth Alliance, as it had come to be known, became more than just a military force. It was a symbol of human resilience. Despite the victories, however, the Council still had a devastating advantage: their fleets. They were vast and powerful, capable of wiping out entire planets. But humanity had learned how to fight them on their terms. The humans had developed new tactics: hit-and-run strikes, ambushes, and surprise attacks. The key was to stay one step ahead, using the wormhole technology to strike from the shadows and then disappear before the Council's vast fleets could respond. But the Council was learning too. They began to deploy new weapons and strategies of their own. It was a game of cat and mouse, with each side trying to outsmart the other. Earth's ships were now engaged in some of the most intense space battles ever witnessed, with human forces fighting tooth and nail to hold their ground. Victory seemed within reach, but the Council was not going to give up easily. In the heart of the Galactic Council, a final decision was made. A desperate plan was put into motion, one that would change the course of the war. The Council's leaders, realizing that they could no longer win through conventional means, decided to deploy their most devastating weapon, a weapon capable of obliterating entire worlds, a weapon that had been kept hidden for generations. The weapon was known as the Void Star. It was a colossal construct, designed to harness the power of a collapsing star. Once activated, it would release an explosion so powerful that it could erase an entire planet from existence. The Council had never planned to use it, but desperate times called for desperate measures. The Void Star was their final gamble. Word of the Council's plan leaked to the human resistance, and it sent shockwaves through the Earth Alliance. The Void Star was a threat unlike anything humanity had faced before. If activated, it would mean the end of Earth. But Earth's leaders were not about to back down. They knew that the war had come to its final phase. In response, humanity made their own desperate move. Using every resource available, the Earth Alliance launched a full-scale assault on the Void Star's construction site, hoping to destroy it before it could be completed. The battle for the Void Star became the most intense conflict in human history. If the humans failed, the entire galaxy would be plunged into darkness. The fight was brutal. Human ships clashed with the Council's forces, their weapons flashing across the void of space like streaks of light. The outcome of the war hung in the balance. Would humanity succeed in stopping the Council's ultimate weapon? Or would the Galactic Council's arrogance finally lead to the complete annihilation of Earth? As the final battle raged on, one thing was certain. Humanity had come a long way since Maya's death. No longer the underdogs, the humans had proven their strength, resilience, and ingenuity. But the greatest test was yet to come. The tipping point had arrived, and the fate of the galaxy now rested in the hands of those who had once been dismissed as weak and insignificant. The battle for survival was on, and there was no turning back. The final showdown. The war had reached its boiling point. The fate of Earth, and possibly the entire galaxy, now hung by a thread. The Galactic Council, desperate to regain control, had deployed their ultimate weapon, the Void Star, in an attempt to wipe out humanity once and for all. But the Earth Alliance, driven by the memory of Maya's death and the survival of their species, would not go down without a fight. The battle for the Void Star had begun. Human ships, armed with everything they had, made their final assault on the massive space station. The Void Star was still in its final stages of activation, but the clock was ticking. If the humans could destroy it before it powered up, they could win the war. But if they failed, Earth would be reduced to ashes. As Earth's ships closed in on the Void Star's location, the Council unleashed its full force. Waves of ships, each one more advanced than the last, emerged from hidden bases and ambushed the human fleet. It was a cataclysmic clash, a storm of lasers, explosions, and burning debris that lit up the darkness of space. Both sides fought with everything they had, knowing that this battle would determine the fate of millions. On Earth, people gathered around their monitors, watching as their fleet fought in space. The tension was unbearable. Every minute felt like an eternity. But they could not stop now. Every ship in the Earth Alliance was fully committed. From the youngest cadet to the seasoned veterans, every human fighter had something to prove. They were fighting for their families, their future, and the memory of the girl who had been killed by the Galactic Council. Back in the heart of the battle, the humans pressed forward, determined to reach the Void Star before it could unleash its deadly power. They dodged blasts, outmaneuvered the Council's ships, and pushed deeper into the station. But as they got closer, the resistance grew fiercer. The Council had anticipated this attack and had fortified the Void Star's defenses with everything they had. Then, just when all hope seemed lost, a breakthrough came. A small group of human fighters managed to breach the outer defenses of the Void Star, infiltrating its core. Their mission was clear: destroy the power core, the source of the Void Star's power, before it could fire. But it was a suicide mission. The core was heavily guarded, and the station's security systems were nearly impenetrable. Still, these brave humans pressed on, their resolve unshaken. Inside the station, the humans fought their way through the chaos. With every step, they knew the stakes were higher. The Void Star was nearing activation, and the countdown had begun. Time was running out. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of intense combat, the human team reached the heart of the Void Star. They planted explosives around the power core, setting the charges. As the countdown continued, they made a desperate dash to escape. But the Council had anticipated this, and they triggered an emergency lockdown, sealing the station's exits. The humans were trapped. Outside, the battle raged on, but there was no time left to help them. The fate of Earth was now in the hands of those inside the Void Star. As the seconds ticked down, one of the human fighters, knowing they had no chance of escape, activated the final detonator. The explosion was massive, shaking the Void Star to its very core. The entire station erupted in a blinding flash of light. The power core, overloaded by the explosion, ignited in a supernova-like explosion that sent shockwaves through the surrounding space. The Void Star, the Council's most powerful weapon, was destroyed in an instant. Its massive explosion marked the end of the Council's plans. Across the galaxy, the shockwave could be felt. The Galactic Council's final weapon was gone, and the balance of power had tipped forever in humanity's favor. The Council's remaining fleets, now leaderless and disorganized, began to retreat, unable to fight against the relentless human forces. The war, once thought to be an impossible struggle, was now at its end. Back on Earth, the people erupted in celebration. They had done it. Against all odds, humanity had defeated the Galactic Council and stopped the Void Star from destroying their world. The cost had been great, but the victory was theirs. Maya's death had sparked this war, but it had also ignited a fire that had burned brighter than anyone could have imagined. Humanity had shown the galaxy what they were capable of. As the smoke cleared from the final battle, humanity stood victorious. The Galactic Council had been shattered, and the message was clear: never again would Earth be underestimated. The stars were no longer the domain of the powerful few. They belonged to humanity now. The galaxy would remember the day when the Earth Alliance took its stand and proved that, when pushed too far, humans would fight back, and they would win. The final showdown had been won, but the story of humanity's rise had only just begun. The galaxy, once a place of fear and oppression, now held a new hope, the hope of a united, powerful humanity. And the Galactic Council, they would never forget the day they crossed the line.